Well, a very good morning. Welcome back to the Tour de Ski for 2016, the second day, second race. And after yesterday's sprint, the athletes now have to contend with the first distance race of the Tour. The women going over 15 Ks, they're first away, and then the men over 30. Mike Dixon and myself, Patrick Winton, with you throughout the Tour. And you can see the one problem that just about every winter sport has had so far this year, there is next to no snow. So multiple laps to make up the 15K. Let's have a look at the venue. Lenzerheide, of course, not so far from Davos, near the Italian border. Mike, you raced here ever?
I've been in the valley, but not actually on this track.
And of course not far from Valmoster, the home of Dario Colonia. That's why he had such good support yesterday. Didn't all go his way. Big question today is who can race well in the sprint and back it up with a good distance race. It's going to be tough. Østberg of Norway is the one who's in prime position, but we're also looking for those who didn't do so well in the sprints, who are going to come through and improve their position in the Tour de Ski. Johaug is probably the obvious. Kowalczyk having a dire season, but surely she can improve from 54th position.
Well, surely she starts effectively on paper, although they all must start together 1 minute and 11 seconds behind. Surely she will bring some of that deficit back.
Well, it's a beautiful place for just about any sport you can name. At this time of year, it's all meant to be carpets of powder snow. Let's hope that next week, there were rumours there was going to be a big dump over the next sort of week or so, a metre of snow forecast. Most of it's come already. It's come in the form of rain, and consequently there is a lot of green mountainside to be seen. But they've done great work. They've got the tracks in good condition, so we won't have any issue with the racing today. But we do have a third consecutive day of racing here tomorrow.
It's a busy program, very busy program, and not just for the athletes, for the technicians who, and I think at -1 degrees, the conditions to get the right wax today. It's the distance, 15 kilometers women, 30 for the men, so you really need to have a good grip wax.
Classic. You've been dominant in all the distance races this year. It's a nice long race to get started after the sprint.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to start today to the 15-kilometer classic. It's one of my favorite distance, so I'm looking forward to start, and I think it will be a tough race. It's a lot of bonus second on the second and the third lap, and also in the finish. So it can be a big difference if one can get all. But I will do my best, and yeah, I know that it will be tough, but I'm looking forward.
All right. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
So Therese Johaug, the hot favourite for the Tour. Whether she's going to win today, different matter. She starts 48.2 seconds behind Ingvild Østberg, who's pretty good over distance. You know, she's no slouch, lying second in the overall World Cup, third in the distance rankings. That's going to be a tall order for Johaug, but she's produced the sort of races this year that makes you feel 48 seconds is achievable.
Well, I think so. I think she'll go out early, of course, a mass start and take on the field. Here's the clister they're putting on in the waxing pocket, effectively. Just heating it in to make sure it compresses into the base and hopefully lasts the distance.
Welcome back to Lenzerheide. We're waiting for the start of the women's 15-kilometer here, the second stage of this year's Tour de Ski, which of course will finish on the Alpchemise in Val di Fiemme. That's always the climax to the Tour, and actually open to all comers this year. There's 200 places available for anyone who wants to do it before the actual race. More of that later. Let's have a look at the programme for the day. Women's 15-kilometre just about a start. The four hills still going on. Qualifying in Innsbruck taking place at 12:45 UK time. The men's 30-kilometre classic will follow the ski jumping. Hopefully we'll be on time for that. And then we'll have a roundup of all the winter sports at 4 o'clock UK time. Well, here are the entrants for the Tour de Ski. Mike, a couple of athletes have dropped out. As we know, Falla, the winner of the sprint yesterday, deciding that one race in the Tour was enough.
Well, that's right. Her aim is really to take the crystal globe in the sprint, and she's looking pretty good to do that. 4 times around this lap, 3.75 because of the lack of snow here, but a very well prepared track. And a total climb for the women of 584 metres within their 15-kilometre journey. technically, the climbing, all the effort, the big climbing comes up to 1.6 kilometers, then an easier journey back to the stadium. But 4 times, it's certainly a good workout over the journey of 15 kilometers.
So here are your first 11 starters. We could do with the time differential at the start. We'll be able to go through that later on. Usberg obviously first away, and she's going to be followed by Ingmar's daughter of Sweden, and their advantages from yesterday will be accumulated at the end of the race. So all these athletes underway at the same time. Further down, Novikova should be able to move up a few places. Caitlin Gregg of USA. And just looking to see, Emma Vicken should be able to make a few places, starting 49. What about Justina Kowalczyk? 54th. Remember, 4-time winner of the Tour de Ski. She's in 54th after the first stage.
And I think the time behind, 1 minute 11 seconds effectively. Nika Taylor there down in 64th position. And a good learning experience for her today.
Yeah, needs to make sure she stays within 15% of the winner to get entry into the next day. That might be a tough task for her. Stina Nilsson of Sweden, disappointing qualifying run yesterday, but had a fantastic knockout phase, got through to the final. Number 3, Sophie Caldwell, Usberg of Norway. Fantastic race from her yesterday. She must fancy her chances of finishing on the podium, if not winning the Tour de Ski this year. What about Astrid Jakobsen, number 4? The Norwegians totally dominant last year. So Usberg will start first. Keep an eye out for number 14, Therese Johaug. Alongside her, Palmakoski of Finland, who's top 8, and the Finns pretty handy when it comes to classic skiing. It is a 15k classic. Very seldom do they have a distance of this length in the women's Tour de Ski. I think that's a good thing, Mike, and I still think the women should up it a level. Maybe race, if the men are racing 30, surely the women should be racing over 20, because the difference between a 30 and a 15 is enormous.
It is. When you look at the climb alone, the women today, I mentioned earlier, 584 meters total climb, and the men's race is twice that, is 1,168. It has been mooted, why are they not racing a little further? But you look at the balance, we've still got most of the sprinters here, next sprint race 4 days time. You want to be, I think, as inclusive as possible.
Well, I certainly I couldn't agree more with that. I think in fact it's a shame that the sprint, we don't have 2 days of sprint early on in the Tour, as we saw Fowler deciding that 1 sprint was enough. She didn't want 3 more distance races before she got a chance to win another sprint. Well, a steady start as they climb their way out of the stadium, and a faller already on the tracks. That's exactly where Andrew Young took a tumble in the sprint yesterday. We have got a bit more news on that fall from Andrew Young, and in the early stages, Mike, I know you've been chatting to his dad, Roy. What was the outcome?
Well, it's very, very frustrating. Nothing can happen. There was a rope hanging down from the advertising above, and Andrew put his hand up to protect it, going over his neck, basically, and it nearly... It completely floored him. It was an attached rope, and it completely dragged him down, and he felt his shoulder was injured, so sadly didn't complete the second rotation of the lap. And had he done that, he would have finished 23rd, but as it was, he was down in 30th place from the second fastest qualifying time, which was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, very, very sad. If he hadn't been 6'4", he probably would have been all right. He'd have sailed under the rope, but
my height,
that was not the call.
Plenty space to get under it, but no, really unfortunate, and a lot of bad luck. And he has had bad luck before, certainly at the World Championships.
Well, we'll look forward to the next sprint with Andrew Young, and of course Andrew Musgrave in action later today. And delighted to say that his sister will be calling into the commentary box later on today. So we'll get some inside info, I hope, on the British team. So 14, Therese Johaug already up front. She's got to gain 48 seconds at least to take the lead. But as is always the way in the Tour de Ski, plenty of bonus points, bonus seconds on offer. Now the second lap it brings our first bonuses. Only the first three through that stage pick up bonuses, 15, 10 and 5 seconds.
No, actually it's all the way down, 15, 12, 10, all the way down to 1.
Well, that's certainly at the finish. The top 10 get bonuses from, well, we better do a bit of revision.
No, the point on the track, lap 2, so it's 15, 12, 10, all the way down to 1. The top 15 going through, and then at the finish it's just 15 for the first, 10 for the second, and 5 for the finisher, I believe.
Well, we'll check that out, and we'll get back to you on that. But I'm pretty sure at the finish, the top 10 in the two intermediate time checks, then it's the top 3. That's usually been the way it's worked, but certainly the top 10 at the finish. And those bonus seconds, Mike, have proved crucial all the way through the history of the Tour. The bonus seconds almost determining the gaps at the end of the Tour.
They're totally vital, and I think that's why, well, clearly Johaug has got the strength and the engine to take herself ahead of the field in this, and she's trying to go out early. In fact, got company up there in the form of Kalla. But without a doubt, it changes the shape of the race. If you can pick up those 15 seconds bonus, oh, there's Johaug actually breaking away already to try and maximise and gain as many of those extra seconds that she can. Look at the climb here. It's a huge climb coming up to the first of the majors, and she's setting out her stall so early, and nobody able to stay with this early pace of Johaug at just under a kilometre.
Climbing her forte, isn't it, Mike? And body weight or strength weight ratio is phenomenal with Johaug. Do you think she's banking on the fact that everyone has been intimidated by her distance races this year? 5 races, 5 wins. They're just going to let her go.
I think that they cannot. She's head and shoulders ahead of anybody else, and you would really affect your own personal pace. I think if you try to go with a much faster early pace, it would spoil your ability. Like Heidi Weng, I thought, might try and stay with her. Usberger, I thought, but even those great classic skiers are letting her go early.
Well, it looks to me as though some of these athletes are struggling with the skis. Clister, as we saw, being applied. Usually we don't see the clister boxes until March, April. This year we haven't seen anything but clister. An absolute nightmare for the technicians, not in terms of preparation, but in terms of cleaning the skis off again. So it's been a tough season for them when it's come to the classic races. There's the margin. Johaug already 25, 30 metres clear. Expect that to be extended when we come to the second climb. Number 21 in second place, Heidi Weng. No surprise to see her. Heidi Weng a little unlucky. She was sort of heralded as the next Marit Bjørgen, which is some pressure to have put on your young shoulders. Now 24, still hasn't had an individual World Cup win. If it weren't for Bjørgen and Johaug, she'd have had plenty, but really tough for her to contend. And after a disastrous start to the season where she finished a race a lap too early, you just worry how she remains motivated.
It's tough. I think the Norwegian team, and Bjørgen even, we're obviously not here at the moment with having a baby, but the Norwegian team is so strong. But how do you get ahead of Johaug? Almost impossible this season, and it must be quite difficult for the other athletes within the team to keep that motivation. But I suppose you just have to look at it. You're living alongside Johaug and trying to learn from her.
Number 8 there, Jessica Diggins. Nice to see her in a good position. Put in a good qualifying run yesterday, and got her best race result of 2016 or 2015-2016 season in yesterday's sprint. So nice to see Jess Diggins coming back to some sort of form. She's a real fighter, and good to see out on the snow. Norway 1 and 2 at the moment. We mentioned yesterday that Norway won every single podium slot in the Tour de Ski last year. Phenomenal. At least that record was broken yesterday. So we've started slightly fresher with Sweden getting on with Ingmar's daughter. But really it was all about Bjørgen and of course Therese Johaug. Were you surprised that Bjørgen beat Johaug last year?
Yes, I was. Johaug, she doesn't have the sprint. She still doesn't have the sprint to gain those extra 60 seconds as Bjørgen was doing last year. And Johaug yesterday getting better in sprinting, down at 15th position. And I think the American team, you mentioned Diggins there with a 4th place yesterday, a 7th, an 8th position. They were brilliant in the sprint competition.
Little slip from TdS Johaug, just going over the rise of that climb. I don't think there's an issue with the skis at the moment. Just keep an eye on that right leg. That's the one that's, I've seen it slip a couple of times. Could be technique. Unlikely with her, but I don't think there's a major issue with the skis, and certainly you want to keep gliding. There's another one on the left-hand ski. The Norwegians will almost certainly wax lighter and shorter than most other teams. Number 17, Charlotte Kalla, golden girl of Falun last year. Wasn't it brilliant? A gold and 2 bronze medals from Falun. That's really got the atmosphere going in last year's World Championships.
Just looking further back, the blue suit of Parmakoski, 5th, 6th position. I thought she might, well, she's there or thereabouts. I thought she might be challenging or trying to get in with Johaug early.
Number 4, Jakobsen. So 3 Norwegians in the top 4 at the moment, 4 in the top 5. Just going through 13. That is Parmakoski, who, as Mike was just talking about. Hannah Kolb there, number 6 for Germany. Good start from her. Pulse rate at 184. Welcome back to Lenzerheide. As you can see, TdS Johaug leading the way, 9:26 through the 2.7 kilometer stage. And well, how many athletes have we got within the first minute? Still over 35. Ida Sargent is there for the USA in 37th position at the moment. And Emma Viken of Sweden, 101 behind. Slightly surprised to see her dropping back so much. And the Swedes, who are they relying on today? I guess Charlotte Kalla is their best chance of getting on the podium. But even she is going to struggle to challenge TdS Johaug. The first of the bonus points coming at 5.8 kilometers, so they've still got a way to go before there. And I have to admit, I now think Mike is right. The top 10 on the first intermediate will get bonuses. The top 10 on the second intermediate will get bonuses, and then the top 3 only at the finish will get their bonuses, 15, 10 and 5 seconds.
I think it's a good way. I think it gives the race, it makes the race fast from the start, and that's why Johaug is so desperate to pull back the deficit she made yesterday in the sprinting, and she's surely going to grab most of those, if not all of those, maximum bonus seconds.
Well, for me, it works when you have a tight race. I don't think it works so well in the women's, because we've so often seen the leaders get away, and it's the same people getting all the bonuses all the way through. And as a spectacle, you lose out on that sprint. And in the men's race with 30Ks, if you're going to go for all the bonuses, you're not going to be in a fit state to challenge for the win at the finish. So you've got decisions to make, but it doesn't work for me in the women's race.
Yes, the men, there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 opportunities and the finish to gain extra points, extra seconds.
So the Norwegian flag very much in evidence in the top 5. Parmakoski, the best of the Finns. Kowalczyk of Poland doing much better than she did yesterday, but still a few seconds off the pace. Now, what is going on with Kowalczyk? Olympic champion, world champion. She's won the overall. She's won the Tour de Ski 4 times. This is the worst season she has ever had.
It is, and as you said, so much history there. Is it fatigue? Is it motivational fatigue? She still puts in the training hours, and maybe still goes through a lot of the same routines. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I think it might just be a mind fatigue, the repetition of doing the same hard racing all the time. And really, she has been flying the flag of Poland for so long, built a good team around her, but it got quite a lonely show out there on your own.
Weng and Østberg working together. Pursuit tomorrow as well in freestyle technique, and then we move venue for the first time.
Already the damage is quite amazing, with Johaug separating herself from her 2 teammates there, Weng and Østberg, by what are now 19 seconds. Then a little gap to Kalla.
Well, there's Therese Johaug up the top of the hill. She's out of sight, out of mind, and really this is a race for second place. And if she shows this form all the way through, she's going to have wrapped up the tour before we get to the halfway stage, because Mike, I think 5 of the last 6 times she's been the fastest up the Alpe d'Huez.
She had six of the last 8 times set the fastest time, and she's breaking the field on that final day by, well, she hasn't really been challenged too much, but by at least 20 seconds. So again, that light body weight, the steep climbs, it totally suits her. And she's opening the gap here. It was 19 the last time we looked. Already it's up to almost, what, 25? Oh, 25.2 seconds.
But remember, she's got to make 48 seconds in total. At this rate, she's going to do that with consummate ease. She could well be a minute and a half clear by the time she goes over that 15-kilometer marker, plus the bonuses that she can pick up. So she's could get another 45 seconds, or almost certainly will get another 45-second bonuses.
A good day at the races for Johaug. She was slipping a little. A number of the athletes are slipping a little, and we can assume the tracks are going to become just a little more glazed, so there could be some issues going on there. Unlikely.
But I guess in these conditions it's better to have slightly slippy skis than skis that are gripping too well, because you'll lose speed on the downhill. Or do you disagree with that? Do you think you can generate the speed on the downhill anyway?
I think you can. It's certainly not a course you could double pole, as we saw in Toblach. Not in the women's race. In the men's race, a huge percentage of them decided to just use arm power alone. That certainly won't be happening today in the men's race. But I think, yes, you want more grip for these steep hills, and work your way down the hills. You will lose time in the downhills, but you'll certainly gain by a good grip on the climb.
Well, this is the meadow that was used for the sprint race yesterday. The layout, of course, different today. Good turnout with crowd numbers as well. And that's one of the advantages of holding the first couple of stages of the Tour de Ski, is everyone recovering from their New Year's celebrations. And what better thing to do than head out and support the cross-country skiers. Good atmosphere, plenty going on. And as we mentioned earlier, if you fancy a crack at the Alpe d'Huez, there is an opportunity. I hadn't realised that they've done it for 6 years, but 200 people are selected who can race the Alpe d'Huez before the World Cup skiers get on the tracks. Fancy that?
9 kilometres, what, the last 4 kilometres up a massive downhill ski slope. It's a challenge. But I'll tell you what, great to experience the course, the final day of 10 days, on 8 days racing in 10 days, to try and simulate what they do.
Now, I know they're only taking, here come the first bonus sprints, I know they're only taking 200 people for that pre-Alpe d'Huez race, and the entries are open until the 4th of January, so you've got a couple of days if you fancy it. And maybe the fact that all the places haven't been taken, indicating that many people wise to what would be awaiting them, they'd put their entry in. It is a very, very tough ski indeed. Johaug still looking solid. Any scenario you can see, Mike, where she fails to finish this one?
I can't see anything. Her strategy has been clear from the outset. She wants to maximise all these bonus seconds. She'll pick up 15 for going through first, and then, well, it was Veng probably going to pick up 12 and then 10 for Usberg. That's
Anne Kloinen, looking very solid. Finished 14th in the Tour last year. Her best is 6th the previous year, lying 14th in the World Cup standings. Therese Johaug, on the other hand, 2nd in 13, 1st in 14, 2nd in 15, and highly likely to keep that sequence of results going with a win this year. It's already looking pretty clear, and the fact that she got into the top 30 in the sprint, Mike, shows that she's an even more potent force than she was 12 months ago. Oh, so much so. Yes, she has worked on her sprinting. She spent a lot of time in the gym working on her strength, and it's unusual to see any athlete dominate a sport in the way that she is this year. It's quite incredible, and all the other coaches must be asking, what do we need to do to make our athletes better? Usberg and Veng have been working together for the last 3 kilometres or so. They pick up some bonus seconds as well. That will be handy. Number 26, Anne Kloinen, leading her teammate Kerttu Niskanen, who comes from Vuokatti, where they have one of the indoor training tunnels used year-round. Not a bad facility to have on your doorstep. And then Jakobsen, the fourth of the Norwegians, just ahead of Justina Kowalczyk on the right of your screen, number 54. And 17 is Charlotte Kalla, looking a little bit fatigued already. But that was not the Kowalczyk that we're used to seeing. 55 seconds behind already. Well, the first bonus seconds have been won by Therese Johaug, and here you go, just to prove that Mike was right, the top 10 all getting bonus seconds, 15 down to 1, and so not so much time gained over the other big contenders, with it being a mass start, and therefore all those that you'd expect to be in the top 15-20 of the Tour de Ski are up in the top positions at the moment.
Well, that's right, and Anna Hägg, not too good in the sprints yesterday. She's getting up into the top 10 as well for Sweden. But look at this, is an incredible attack performance. She's picked up her 15 bonus seconds, and it seems to have inspired her more. She seems to have found another gear. I think from the first time we saw her at the World Championships, Sapporo, Japan, 2007, when she was 18-year-old, we couldn't believe that anybody could work as hard as she can. And she was gasping for air, but unstoppable, kept pushing harder.
Yeah, incredible. Certainly some of the great memories of cross-country skiing. Sapporo, as you mentioned, 2011 in Oslo. Her performance in the 30K there was absolutely outstanding. Finally getting the better of Marit Bjørgen. Now, I wonder what Marit Bjørgen is thinking. Is she thinking, oh, I wish I was still fit and training, and I'm sure she will be coming back, but do you think she's missing the action here at the Tour de Ski, or do you think she's quite glad she's not around to have to contend with Johaug?
Do you know, I think that out of all the seasons that Bjørgen has been taking part in, she is phenomenal. I think she's delighted not to be here, because I'm not sure she would be able to contain Johaug. Yeah. Unstoppable. That was interesting. Usberg and Weng there, a little battle. I think it was Usberg at the front wanting to share the lead, and Weng not wanting to go in front of her.
Well, they need to share the load, I think, if they're going to stay ahead of the Finns. Koloinen and Niskanen separated now. Charlotte Kalla coming back into it. Started fast. I think maybe just a fraction too fast, Charlotte Kalla. Dropped away over kilometres 2 through to 4, but starting to gain on the Finns again. 13 going through. Palmakoski of Finland. 34, her teammate, is Laura Moinanen. Just behind them, Justina Kowalczyk. 37 looking nice and light on her feet. That's Teresa Stadler, who finished 10th in the Tour last year, had a really good run, so it would be good to see the Austrians featuring in the top positions again. De Martin Tropanin from Italy, just off the pace of the leader. Slint of Norway, a youngster coming up through the rankings, and that's where the Norwegians are very, very conscious in giving their youngsters the experience. They get more quota places than anyone else, the Norwegians, so I guess it's easier for them to say, okay, we'll give 2 juniors a run out in the Tour de Ski.
It's a big experience, and the Russians have done the same. We've got 9 Russians in this field. They're throwing the Russians into this field to make them better, I think, put them through racing upon racing experience.
Stamping those skis into the tracks, just trying to get the clister to grip. It's certainly getting harder work on this steep climb, and the wax is getting thinner. Now, let's keep an eye on the margin between Johaug and those chasing. Last time we got an update, the margin was just around 30 seconds, but I think Usberg and Weng are starting to close the gap a little. They've gone from 32 behind to 29. It's not a massive margin, but it might indicate that Johaug is really struggling. Well, at least she wasn't herringboning. All the Norwegians going light on the wax. That could change the story here.
Well, Usberg still leading this little battle. Weng just tactically wanting to stay in behind her teammate. Yes, they're friends, but when you're out on a race, it changes things. You have to do what you have to do, conserve your energy and use other athletes to help drag you forward. Back to 34 again, Johaug making the difference on these steepest of climbs.
Well, Charlotte Kalla has made contact with the 2 Finns again, and looks as though she's going to go ahead. So good recovery from her, and that could, I suggested it might be to do with the pacing early on in this race, but it might also be to do with the wax, because if Kalla has gone a little heavier on the wax, she would have been slower initially, and she'll be starting to benefit now. 105 the margin. Last time we saw Kalle, Mike, she was 58, so she's still losing ground to the leaders, and or the leader, Therese Johaug, who is heading back through the stadium. Back at 8.3. Jakobsen 124 behind. 9th in the World Cup standings. Jakobsen, of course, took that fantastic silver medal in the skiathlon event at the World Championships in Falun last year. There goes Diggins, and she's working with Bjornsson, so lots of teammates pairing up in today's race. Pros and cons of that?
I think it's good that they've got such positivity, the American team, and that working together will probably keep them in a more positive situation. Even though I saw they were slipping a little with the wax, well, everybody seems to be up this climb.
Ingmar's daughter a little off the pace, down in 24th at the moment. I thought we might see slightly better from her. This is certainly not a match to her classic 10K classic performance in Ruka earlier this year. This is the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th. Kiloinen, Niskanen and Kalle. Kalle, former winner of the Tour de Ski back in 2008. It wrecked the end of her season, and it wrecked the next season as well. But it did show us what an athlete she is. And of course, since then, she's had highlights. A gold medal out in Vancouver in 2010 at the Olympic Games. And she's been an outstanding performer for Sweden. Could really do with just a slightly stronger team.
Well, they came to the best when they needed it most last year in Falun at the World Championships. And Kalle, she was matching and beating the Norwegians during that peaking period. And it does make me often wonder, is Kalle, has she got more to give in most of the rest of her races? When she really, really wants it, she can improve by 1 or 2%.
But she was not here last year. Most of the Swedes sitting out the Tour de Ski, preferring to focus their attention, and quite rightly so, on the home World Championships. I'm not quite sure what that little caption was for.
Johaug again looking to hoover up some more points. This is another one of these sprint bonus. She doesn't need to sprint, she just needs to keep her pace. It's an aggressive pace going.
Now keep an eye on the clock, because as we mentioned last time, from intermediate 8 to 9 the two Norwegians, Weng and Østberg, close 3 seconds on Therese Johaug. And although I don't think they're going to catch her, it might well determine who wears the red bib as the tour leader at the start of tomorrow's race. It was 29. And in fact, Johaug may be being alerted to the fact that her teammates are closing, and she's done a bit more damage on the last climb. So through they go at 9.6, and this the second of the bonus stations. So Johaug picking up another 15-second bonus, 12 going to Østberg.
By my calculations already, I think that's Johaug effectively with the best time so far. She's set out for 45 seconds behind Østberg at the beginning of this race. She's picked up 6 extra seconds. In fact, it's pretty close.
Yeah, 48 off the pace of Faller at the start of today, but Faller already withdrawing from the Tour, so that 45-second margin more significant. So Charlotte Kalle, Mike, drops back again, just trying to work it out. Looks as though she's losing ground on the really steep climbs, but doing pretty well on the flat and the downhill.
Well, that's right, another 11 seconds, as you say, on this steep climb. She doesn't have the tempo. I'm not sure it's... is it the wax? Not entirely sure.
Lara Monanen going through 136, so she's lost another 7-8 seconds in the last split. Jakobsen still leading this train with Parmakoski right behind her. Ragnhild Haga from Holte in Norway, number 20. And the best of the Austrians, Theresa Stadlova, still holding her own. And if she can finish today in the top 10 of the Tour, that would be a good start for her. Remember, she finished 10th in the overall Tour last year. But Johaug away and clear. over 30-second margin over everyone. Well, welcome back to Lenzerheide, and we're just about to see the race leader go through the drink stop. Will she take any? No. Last lap, says the coach, and the Norwegians with plenty of support. And Johaug going through 11.2, so she has another 3.8 kilometers to go, and that won't take her much longer than 10 minutes or so. So it will be day 2 complete, and already we think in the red bib as the Tour de Ski leader, trying to get the crown back, having lost it to Marit Bjørgen last year. I guess the more interesting question is who's going to finish second this year, Mike?
It looks like it so far, and Usborg making a little decisive move there ahead of Veng. And there, Veng being told that this is the last lap. And I mean, it might sound daft, you think you should know where you're going, but we did see, as Patrick mentioned earlier, she cut off early to go to the finish with 1 lap to go. So good information there, I think, from the coaches.
Had they done it in Ruka, she wouldn't have made that mistake.
Well, it was so unfortunate, and she lost so many points. Finished 13th, she was in 2nd place. It's expensive, a terrible expensive mistake, and it could really affect the outcome by the end of the season in terms of World Cup points.
Yeah, the worst possible start to her season. But it happens to athletes a lot. Thinking not always easy when you're right at the end of your tether in terms of exhaustion. And there's no doubt she was pushing pretty hard on that occasion. So the 2 Finns have now pulled away from Charlotte Kalla of Sweden, and delighted to welcome Posey Musgrave into the commentary box. Of course, the sister of Andrew Musgrave, who's been doing great things on the World Cup Tour over the last 3, 4, 5 seasons. And the British team, exciting times altogether in the British team. Welcome, Posey. Interesting race going on. Therese Johaug, though, is absolutely in a league of her own. Give us some insight. What are her secrets? What is so special about her?
Well, as you said, Patrick, she is just a phenomenal competitor, and it's really hard to see anyone else who's going to be able to compete with her all season. I think she's a great all-round skier. You used to see when she was younger, she had this really fast tempo. She'd just go and go and go, but I think she's managed to add in a little bit of power to that. That's what's set the difference for her in the past couple of years. On top of that, she's an all-rounder in skate and classic, and as you've seen, she's got stronger in the sprints as well, and that's what's making her such a big force in these tours as well these days.
And how important that she's been brought up in the Norwegian system. Were she from say she was from Switzerland, where they have some good skiers but not so many great skiers, would that have made a difference?
I think part of the strength of the Norwegians is their strength in depth, because it means they have such great competitions from a really young age. So they're growing up having to fight for their places. You know, you'll see some of the guys on these teams, they can get a top 10 one week, and then the next week they're not even on the start list because there's such competition for their team slots. So they know they have to perform every week if they want to be racing on the World Cup.
And on the same note, is that why your brother Andrew has based himself in Norway? Go and join the best and learn from them.
Yeah, if you want to be the best, you've got to train with the best. I think that's always been his philosophy, and that's why he's based himself out there, and that's why Andrew Young's done exactly the same. So every day when they're training, they're not just out there by themselves, they're out with good skiers, they're out with World Cup winning skiers every day.
And are they involved in the club system there as well?
Yeah, so both of them originally went to ski schools in Norway, so they did a year in a ski school, and I think that introduced them to the system. They got to see how the Norwegians were training and what the coaching was like, and since then they've both gone on to train with clubs in Norway.
Well, it's a bold move, isn't it, to move away from home to do that, but the sort of commitment you have to show if you're going to compete at this level.
Yeah, it's not easy. They both moved off to Norway age sort of 17, 18, when most people are just learning to cope away from home by themselves, and to go off to another country and do it is a really big move. But I think it's really paid off for both of them, and as you say, if you want to be the best, you've really got to put in a big lot of commitment, and that's what they've both done.
And clear up something. How long did it take your brother to learn to speak Norwegian?
He was actually quite good quite quickly, although where, I mean, when I say good, he could communicate, but I'm not sure it was the best Norwegian for quite a few years. It was a little bit ropey.
But he's fluent now.
He is fluent now.
And I've got a lot of Norwegian friends who are hugely impressed by his skiing, but much more impressed that he can do all his interviews in Norwegian. He's a talented lad, and we wish him well. He's racing this afternoon. Before you go, Posey, not a prediction of who's going to win this race. That's too easy for you. A second and third between Weng and Usberg, and who's going to win the battle between Kalle and the two Finns?
Ooh, tricky. I'm going to go for Usberg.
Usberg to win that little battle, and will Kalle get the better of the two Finns?
She looks like she's struggling at the moment, and I do like the Finns for classic. So.
Well, that's great. Thanks, Posey. We'll hopefully see you later during the tour, and certainly be on the phone to ask how the rest of the family are getting on. Well, not far to go for Therese Johaug now at the end of this second phase, the second stage. It's been a lonely ski for Johaug. But if you're going to go hell for leather over the first kilometre, you've got to expect this sort of a race.
Oh, very much. And what it's doing to the rest of the field, Patrick, we've got, as we saw, we've got Usberg and Weng 37, 49 seconds behind. But the rest of the field now, it's a 1 minute 30 gap. Back to Kiloinen and Niskanen and Kalle. That's a huge gap already. That's normally what we see going into the last day in the competition. So Johaug destroying the whole field, taking two of her teammates kind of with her, but the rest of the field being completely destroyed. And you can see Johaug slipping there, and it's never easy. You waste so much energy when the skis slip back on you, but never putting her out of sequence, out of stride. She keeps on fighting.
5 kilometre freestyle tomorrow on these same tracks, and it will be a pursuit start. So Johaug is going to have a very, very decent lead to start the race off with, and I'm not sure anyone's going to see her at any stage of the race. 5k freestyle will take them, what, 13 minutes if it's an average course. They might get down to 12.
It might do. This course, look at the climbing here, probably, I don't know, 12 and a half. The way that the form that Johaug is on, who knows? Could get close to 11.
Well, good to see the fans have turned out in big numbers. All the snow you can see has been stored over the last couple of months. Snowmaking machines working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just to make sure these tracks have been in good nick. I can't think of a venue we've been to this year where we've seen natural snow except for Ruka.
Well, that's right, difficult. And I'm just thinking, the 30 years that I've been down in the Alps, I've never seen anything quite like this, where at these high altitudes, 1,450 metres, no natural snow.
We'll build a stadium in Greenland.
Now, Usberg, there were 5 men disqualified in Toblach for skating too far around corners, and I think that's why we picked up on that visual. I think she skated around that corner quite substantially.
So do you think that will be a disqualification or a time penalty?
It won't be a time penalty. The jury will look at it. Generally, it's a warning and then a DQ.
Well, they'll have to think long and hard before that, because it will change the shape of the Tour de Ski. Obviously, it means you're out of the Tour, not just out of this race.
It's a serious, and of course, it is being monitored more closely. That's what the FIS have stated coming into the racing season.
But the easy way to do it is to have red lines coming into the corner and red lines going out. No skating before or after, just like they do in triathlon.
And that's what they used to do when skating first came in, 30 years ago this year. And, and it made it very clear you cannot skate past this set line.
Well, you can hear the breathing from Therese Johaug, just an indication that she is still pushing hard enough to be in oxygen debt. Here's Usberg, who's looked very good. Brilliant sprint from her yesterday, finished on the podium. And lies second in the sprint standings, second overall. And round she goes. So
in my book, she's skating, not step turning. She's absolutely skating around those bends.
But a step turn is impossible. I just feel uncomfortable with that, because it is subjective.
It is.
And what you do, you cannot keep your ski. If you've got a corner that tight, you cannot keep your skis in the track. It's virtually impossible.
Well, we saw the step turn there from Veng, but and as I say, 5 men in a World Cup of professional athletes who do this all the time. 5 of them got it wrong in toe black. Maybe that was just a warning that we will be watching.
Heidi Veng going through, and in my book she took just as many, although she wasn't pushing quite as hard off the skating ski as Østberg was, she took just as many steps. So we'll keep an eye on that. I don't think there's any problem for Therese Johaug at the moment. She's being very, very careful to avoid anything that can be interpreted as a skating step. 41 minutes on the clock as she comes round the final corner, and it is all about time margins today. Looking to go into the lead in the Tour de Ski. It's been an impeccable performance and a very gutsy run indeed, taking the lead after just 500 metres. Therese Johaug, not so good in the sprint yesterday. We wouldn't have expected to see her so far up there, but she did get through to the knockout phases. She wraps up the win in stage 2, 41.26 the winning time. Is she going to be 45 seconds clear with the bonuses she's picked up? I think almost certainly.
Yes, she is. Another 15 seconds gain there, and Østberg will pick up, surely she'll be second, she'll pick up 10 seconds. You can see the length of the waxing base there. It looks like a long waxing base. She certainly needed that grip.
Yeah, the grip seemed to get better towards the end. It was the midsection of the race where she was really struggling. Big, powerful finish coming in from Østberg. Every second counts, as her coaches will have told her many, many times. 38, but with the bonuses that Johaug has picked up, 2 lots of 3 seconds and 1 lot of 5 seconds, that does make the difference. So I think they're only about 3 seconds in it, but by my reckoning, Therese Johaug will be in red at the start of the skating race tomorrow. But what Østberg's done, Mike, is to ensure that she starts just a few seconds behind Therese Johaug. Yes, that's important.
I think that's important. If she can get in behind Johaug, well, how long could it last? I'm not sure, but that will be her thinking for tomorrow.
So normal business resumed with Norway taking first, second and third. Here comes a clean sweep for them. What's Charlotte Kalle going to do on the left-hand side? Number 28, that's Kerttu Niskanen, who has the lead at the moment, but coming strongly is Kaloinen on the right-hand side. Just pips it in the end. 1:32. So Kaloinen, Niskanen, Kalle, 4, 5 and 6. They've had a fantastic race out there today. I know they weren't contending for the win, but a real battle between the 3 of them. Well, that looks as though Østberg has already been told that... has she been told?
I think they're just exchanging notes on how the race went, really.
Well, let's hope that is the case. You would expect to see an asterisk opposite the name if a disqualification was pending, but there is none there at the moment. Laura Mononen just finishing in 7th ahead of Therese Stadlover, so that's a really good run for Stadlover. Haga of Norway in 9th position. Haga finished 4th in the Tour last year. I don't think she's on that sort of form this season. Here comes Astrid Jakobsen, the World Championship silver medalist in the skiathlon, 28-year-old from Oslo, taking 11th place today, just ahead of Jessie Diggins, who's had a good run and a good fight with Sadie Bjørnsen. So the 2 Americans have pushed themselves to decent results here in Lenzerheide. De Matin Troponin, nice to see the Italians up there. The Italians will be hoping that their man can do something special in the distance race. How long is the world's best sprinter going to survive in the Tour de Ski this year in the men's, Mike?
Well, I'm wondering he'll certainly last through till the first day in Oberstdorf, of course. And maybe take the whole thing. Kowalczyk there, she started strong. She got up into 8th position at one point, but down in 19th now, 3:07 behind. Good run from Steven. She started late.
Here comes Nielsen, the leader of the under-23 world title, in a good fight with Ingmar's daughter, who finished 2nd in the sprint race yesterday, and now drops a long, long way off the pace. 3:40 behind today. And she started with, what, a 41-second lead over Therese Johaug. So she's 3 minutes off the pace. Well, a great race, and remember, later on this afternoon, after the four hill ski jumping from Innsbruck, actually, we'll be back here in Lenzerheide with the men's 30 kilometre, same lap, 8 times round?
8 times.
I'll be getting dizzy by the end of that one.
It's going to be a very different race, though, isn't it? We're bound to see a group together. Jonsrud Sundby will probably try and do what Therese Johaug has done here in the women's, but I don't think he'll be allowed to.
De Bertolis just finishing for Italy, and still a few of the tail enders to come across the line. Number 63, that's Deborah Greiter, and as we mentioned, coming up next, the four hills, David Goldstrom down in Innsbruck to cover the third stage. There is the view from the top of the in-run. You have got to be a special type to release yourself down that in-run. Great crowds expected there, over 40,000 usually in Innsbruck. It is a stunning view from the top of the Bergisel. So I hope you can stay with us for that and rejoin us for the men's 30 kilometre later on today. Johaug, the out-and-out winner today, and back in front in the Tour.